This video introduces two IDs, humanism and pre-humanism. Let's start with humanism. This term is typically associated with the Renaissance. It's a rich and complex phenomenon. I'm offering a starter definition of it here. Do write it down. Humanism is an outlook that takes seriously humans as individuals who can do things in this world. Indeed, humanism celebrates the capacity of people to achieve great things and develop their own intellectual and artistic potential on earth. One famous example of this humanistic outlook in the Renaissance can be found in paintings from the period, many of which were portraits. By taking as their subject individual humans, Renaissance portraiture celebrates the human. Humans are important enough, these works suggest, to be the focus of both the labor of the artist and of contemplation by the viewer. Now, a full understanding of the human and the related term of humanism involves looking at what they are contrasted with or opposed to. Humanism is associated with a particular period of time in the European West, the Renaissance, which also is known as the early modern period. We're beginning class with Geoffrey Chaucer, who lived during the period immediately before the Renaissance, the Middle Ages, also known as the medieval period. It's a very long stretch of time. For both many people who lived during the Renaissance and for scholars of the Renaissance, the Middle Ages are deeply different from the Renaissance and the humanist worldview associated with that period. According to those people, the Middle Ages was a time when humans had no awareness of themselves as humans. That is, as individuals fully engaged with their own human potential in the world. They lacked a self-awareness that they can and should do things, accomplish things on earth. In other words, the medieval period was a time before humanism. It was a time of pre-humanism. According to this stereotype, medieval people cared little about their own lives on earth. Their primary focus was not on this life, but on the next life. Not on man, but the man above, God. That is the Christian God. This is a stereotype, let me stress, not something I personally support, but it is a long-standing attitude and it's important to know about it. And the fact is, to a certain extent, the idea that the Middle Ages lacked any humanistic worldview is correct. For example, if we look at the Christian culture that dominated the medieval West, and this was basically a version of what Catholicism is today, we see a stress not on individual people, but on the Holy Family. There are no portraits of humans from the Middle Ages, akin to those that would be made during the Renaissance. The only entities worthy of anything like a portrait in the Middle Ages were entities associated with God, the Christian God. So we see representations or portraits of God the Father, of the Virgin Mary, and of course of Jesus. Many, many, many images of Jesus on the cross were made during the Middle Ages. Also, medieval Christian culture placed a great stress on the afterlife. So instead of focusing on fostering, nurturing one's quality of life on earth in and of itself, medieval Christian culture focused on heaven. Life on earth from this perspective was just temporary, a pilgrimage of sorts to the place that really counted. As a result, both art and texts devote a lot of space to portraying heaven. And of course, medieval Christian people, in their obsession with the afterlife, were just as, if not more, preoccupied with hell and how to avoid hell. There are many, many, many fascinating images of hell in medieval texts and in medieval visual culture. I'll end this video with a cool example of how medieval culture seems to support this stereotype of pre-humanism. Transitombs. Transitombs were a particular kind of tomb in which people during the Middle Ages were buried. Above the tomb, the dead person would be represented at the prime of their life on earth. But outside of the tomb itself was portrayed what was actually happening to that person's dead body. Instead of seeing the earthly body as beautiful and worthy of attachment and celebration, medieval Christian culture, as the Transitombs suggests, denigrated or put down the body for its mortal, temporal, earthly, and finite nature. By putting images side by side of the body in life and the rotting body, Transitombs offered a powerful visual rejection of humanity, of human life on earth. Transitombs remind the viewer that whatever greatness one achieves, however beautiful one may look, one is still ultimately mere mortal, rotting flesh, food for worms. Transitombs indicate how a person should not be very invested. They shouldn't care much about their body, since it's just part of the corrupt, sinful, and mortal way station that is the earth. The body might look good at times, hence the depiction on the top, but it ultimately is nothing but a disgusting, disintegrating collection of flesh and bones, food for worms, rats, and reptiles. Okay, after that feel-good look at Transitombs, let's end with an overview of the stereotype about the relationship between humans, the Renaissance, and the Middle Ages. According to this stereotype, while the Renaissance stresses the individual human, the medieval stresses the group. While the Renaissance focuses on life on earth, the medieval period emphasizes the afterlife. While the Renaissance is anthropocentric or man-centered, the medieval period is theocentric or centered on God. While the Renaissance said emphatically, man is good, medieval Christians warned, man is bad and sinful. For these reasons and more, the Renaissance is stereotypically associated with humanism, and the Middle Ages is stereotypically a time before humanism, a time that is of pre-humanism.